I want to bring in from the ANU's Strategic and Defence Studies Centre, Professor Matthew Sussex. Professor, thanks for your time. Where are we at? Is Trump going to meet Putin next week?
Well, look, Kieran, it's possible that he will. Trump seems to think that he's achieved some kind of a breakthrough with his envoy Witkoff just recently visiting Moscow. But the devil's, as always, in the detail, and the detail is very, very vague on what the Russians will actually be prepared to propose in terms of a ceasefire and a longer-term peace deal. And one gets the kind of suspicion that this is Putin perhaps wanting to just kick the can down the road by promising Trump a summit. And then also helping Trump out in getting out of the sort of cul-de-sac he's created by issuing ultimatums to Moscow.
Yes, indeed. And that cul-de-sac, will it see him return back to the question of sanctions? Is that the end game here? Is that what we have to see?
Well, I mean, it might be, but it's kind of interesting to note that since taking office, Trump has, of course, shown Putin extraordinary deference. But not just that, he hasn't put a single additional American sanction on Moscow. And what he's proposing here are these sort of secondary tariffs on countries that buy Russian energy, and that's China, but chiefly that's India. And whether he would be prepared to put a further tariff on India for what he sees as bad behaviour by New Delhi is something I guess we'll have to wait and see. It would make an already difficult relationship, you would think, even worse.
Well, yes, and just to pick up what I was chatting to my panel about, that India relationship, because it's just more complex than saying, oh, India buys energy from Russia. India has had a traditionally non-aligned foreign policy, one in which they've got a lot of their military hardware from Russia.
That's right. India is very heavily dependent on Russian arms for its military to have the sort of teeth that it does. And I think, when it comes to India, we do need to kind of temper our expectations about how close New Delhi is prepared to get to the West. There was a lot of enthusiasm when the Quad Mark II was sort of re-signed, that India would get heavily involved in the types of security disputes that we worry about in particularly East Asia and Northeast Asia. But I don't think New Delhi was ever really prepared to do that. What it's much more interested, of course, is the threat from China in the Indian Ocean, and of course continentally too, on land in Doklam. So the extent to which we would be able to cooperate with India militarily across the whole of the Indo-Pacific is an open question. And by the same token, India will see itself as a bit of a swing state, pivoting between Moscow and the West, probably for the foreseeable future, although this latest decision by Trump does kind of push it a little bit further towards the Kremlin.
And with, yes, indeed, and just finally, with the conflict itself between Russia and Ukraine, we hope it does come to an end and that Donald Trump can claim a win. That'd be the best case scenario. But is there pressure within the population in Russia? Are they growing tired of the conflict a few years on?
Well, look, I think there's this general sense that Russians would like it to end. That's come up in sort of numerous polls, in as much as you can trust them. But I think the general sentiment from the Kremlin is that there's no incentive really to stop fighting, and every incentive to try and gain as much Ukrainian territory as possible to strengthen the position at the bargaining table. And it's kind of interesting that the latest summit cuts not only Ukraine out, but it also cuts Europe out. And they'll be vital to any peacekeeping deal that's saleable to Ukraine. And of course, the last thing Putin wants is Europe involved. So, kind of regardless of how much the domestic population is tiring of the conflict, I think Putin really has an incentive to just keep on going and keep on stringing this process along.
Professor Matthew Sussex from ANU, great to get your insights. As always, thanks so much.
Thanks, Kieran.